Oh, that was quick. Ah, the one you get every time. Every time at low level. I have run this dungeon more times than I care to admit. More than I care to admit. This is one of those dungeons that I was talking about earlier. I could run with my eyes closed. The Nexus. Gosh, I could run this thing. Like I said, I could run this thing with my eyes closed. Oh, and speaking of which, the Reverend stepped out, but we got ourselves a pally tank. And into that. Don't have to do as much with a pally healer. We'll see. I feel good about this. Feel good about this. Feel good about our goal. Level 80 by the end of the stream. Not sure why the pally was. But yeah, this is kind of my route. I saw some people chatting yesterday complaining that this is a kind of that 60 to 80 is a hard level. I don't feel it's that difficult. I actually feel it's kind of one of the easiest. It just slow. I think it's because you go 1 to 60 so quick. If you've got heirlooms and everything else, you go to 1 to 60 super quick, and 60 to 80 is slower. So you kind of adjust to the pace from 60 to 80. But if you mix in a dungeon with you kind of mix in that dungeons with regular leveling, and then you use a good leveling route like AAP, Azeroth Autopilot, it makes it so easy. Now I will say this: when I get to 90, and I get to Legion, there's very little questing that I'll do. I will dungeon baby that thing up. I really dislike WAD. WAD broke me. Oh my gosh, she pulled too much. Oh, time for the oh shit button. Yeah, that was never gonna work. Too much, too quick. Wait for him to reset, see if I can reincarnate. That was a little bit unpopular right there. That blew one of my cooldowns. Shouldn't have done that. Should have known that that was an unrecoverable one. Oh yeah, this is going to be a thing. Got all my passive healings down, so let's hope. Yeah, this is going to go much the same way. No one's focusing. No one's focusing. Everybody's just doing their own thing. That's why aggro's all over the place. Aggro's all over the place. And, oh God. Just that initial pop from those four.
I need to target something first.
So get the DK up. In this dungeon you have to focus what the tank's focusing. If you don't, it's not really going to work out. Alright, so we got that done. Now we'll see how this goes.
I require a target.
Dot that guy up. Oh gosh. Good, the DK started using this. Oh, goodness. It's a frost DK. You don't see those very often. At least I don't see those very often. Guess we're going to slow pull now.
I don't have a target.
That's alright. Well, we're almost to 72. Got that pack coming in. Chain heal going on here. See if we can hit all of them. See if we can hit all of them. So yeah, this is, like I said, this is kind of my leveling route. Pick up these dungeons that have lots of quests in them. Maintain that kind of AAP. Luckily, this dungeon's not going terrible. So if we can keep the pace up, we've already got the path that's up here that usually causes the issue. That path's already done. This can always be tricky right here. Let's see where exactly she's going to pull them to. Oh, she's going to pull them back here. Always kind of got to anticipate that. You know, I try to be a proactive healer, so try to get those initial heals down. So once you get those initial heals down, then you can kind of do some other things, but I always try to keep as much passive healing up as I can. If you keep that kind of healing rain, if you're a Resto shaman, if you keep that healing rain down, and if you look down here and you've got 2 totems available, I'll throw a totem. I'll keep that number 2 totem on cooldown. That way I always know I've got one in my back pocket. Okay, we're gonna do it right here. I like it. So like right now, I'll throw that second totem down. Throw Riptide on cooldown. That way you can take advantage of tidal waves. Watch out for stuns. Stuns are real. try to help out DPS as much as you can, but
Something first.
realize if there's a lot of if you've got a lot of damage going out, you can put yourself in a bind if you get too focused on DPS. Like this boss she stays pretty stationary. She doesn't move around a ton, but we're gonna make sure she stays right where she's at. And right there, because she does this, so it makes it a little bit harder to cast, you know, anything with a timer. It's not instant cast. So making sure you keep those passive healings down as much as possible, and because stuff like that happens. Luckily, you know, you spread those riptides around and utilize your tidal waves. Take opportunities to put that healing, those passive healings down. That on cooldown makes it super easy. God, she almost threw me off the platform. And then once the boss gets down, then it's pretty easy. Pretty easy. Got my mind on my money. Okay, so we're gonna stick to the side here. We'll have to pull that pad over there. We won't have to pull this one, but that pad's gonna have to be pulled. And if I'm not mistaken, there's another group right behind that corner. No, there's not. You don't have to pull that group, but you're gonna have to pull that group. Might as well just pull them in place. See what they do, but once again, like I talked about, that second totem, that sucker's on cooldown. Use riptides on cooldown as well. I will occasionally, riptide cools down pretty quick, but I will use riptide as kind of a emergency heal, if you will. Like I said, a lot of these pats have stuns and polymorphs and fears, so any of that kind of passive healing you can do is always going to help. And like I said, if you're using if you're talented into having two of the cooldown, or two of the healing tide totems, just like two of the riptides, you can use the first totem on cooldown, and I always use that, or that number 2 totem I use as you know, a cooldown. I just use it on cooldown, and then I'll keep that last one in reserve as kind of a backup for when stuff just going bad. Pat runs in or something like that. So always kind of works that way. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna do that back here. All right, fine. I can dig it. I'm gonna try to dot as I can. And what do you know? 72. If I can get to a point where I can drop a heal or drop a chain lightning, that kind of helps out. I don't like a lot of overhealing, but this dungeon's not taking a lot out of me. It's just spike damage that from those initial pulls. They're doing a good job Melee's doing a good job of using their cooldowns. I missed that riptide. Or I missed that healing rain. But she's getting wrecked a little bit. Now we're stabilized.
I require a target.
I can lend a helping hand here. And one of the ways I set I've got an MMO mouse, I've got a Logitech MMO mouse, is I set my first 3 buttons, as you can see down here. They're kind of set on, your primary damaging skills. 4 is Healing Rain, so it makes it really simple to put down Healing Rain. That's just kind of a thing.
Too far away.
That was an easy pull. This could be one of those where you just go ahead and put that extra totem down, because as soon as you start healing, there's so many groups that the healer's going to take the blow of that. And as you can see, there's one on me right now. She got her off me. I'm going to throw down another Healing Rain quick. Kind of see how the damage goes. Probably won't throw that last Healing Tide totem down. It's not really needed.
I don't have a target.
So these wraiths go down pretty quick. The wraiths go down pretty quick. You don't have to pull them back there, you can just pull them in place. But this is gonna be a pretty easy heal. No big thing here. These surges and these wraiths, they're just not that difficult. Makes it easy. Makes it easy. Based on what she's been doing, I'll just drop this right here. Drop the totem. I got some healing done. Now it's going to be hit a chain heal. Maybe a Riptide if damage gets too crazy. I usually, as a Resto shaman, I try to bounce chains off the tank. If I'm going to bounce a chain heal, that chain heal usually goes through the tank. It's up to you. It's up to you, but it's most efficient going through the tank, because the tank's generally taking the most damage. Yeah, you gotta destroy those rifts. And like I said, if you've got those tidal surges going on, you can use tidal surge. It's another way you can utilize Riptide if you want to get real specific on how to use Riptide right. You can pop it, and then you've got 12 seconds of tidal surge to have an efficient next heal. Now he moves, so you gotta destroy his rifts, and then there's big time raid-wide damage or dungeon-wide group damage that goes out. Kind of violate my own rule here, but I've got Riptide on both of them, and they seem to be the ones taking the damage. So throw in another Healing Tide. It also depends on how quick you need that next heal. Works well. Works well. Alright. Arcane Splinters are next. I think I missed loot. I never get loot in these dungeons, but I mean, it really doesn't matter. You're not going to stay at these levels enough for gear to matter, so you should be heirloomed up if you have that available to you. Invest in heirlooms, especially if you're going to level. If you like leveling certain classes, like say you're a shaman like me, and then you want a DPS, a different kind of DPS class. Do like a hunter. That way you can kind of maximize your heirloom sets as you pay to level them up, and you know, invest in those things that help with that. That would be my suggestion. Because unfortunately I've been playing a while, so when you look at my heirloom box, I've got a lot. Not as much as you would think, though. Not as much as you would think, though. Okay, good bounce chain heal here. Put a riptide on them just to make it easy. Reach out and touch those guys. Those rifts, man. They don't do a ton of damage, but they can do damage at the wrong time. The wrong time. Alright, so moving up here, moving into the last part of the dungeon. The last half, if you will. Try to be strategic in that.
I need to target something first.
Not sure why the tank didn't pull there.
I require a target.
These things don't do any kind of damage. Yeah, and you want to watch, you know, when you see stuff like that happen, you want to watch your heals. Because when a pack comes in, oh, this is going to be one of those. Yeah, we are at the crossroads. Hopefully she's got her bubble. So, always having your wolf form. Oh man. I can keep him up. It's just getting over that initial damage surge that makes it just so difficult. Yeah, that was a tough pull right there. She's got a bunch of stuff. I had to come off for a second just to move, and, rather than just make her stand, which is tough.
I must get closer.
It's a tough call, man. It is a tough call for sure. sure what she's doing. Try to follow the tank. Try not to pull for the tank. That's always, that can always lead to heartache, if you will. That can always lead to heartache. Another arcane splinter. Pick up some herbs. Those always do well in the auction house. Like I said, always have a gathering profession. Always have a gathering profession. Makes it a lot easier. Always kind of maximizes that kind of experience per hour or experience per minute, whatever, however you're measuring it, but always gives a little extra. Pick up one of those. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Don't seem to have a ton of problems with aggro, but just a lot of these keepers. Seems like we're running into a lot of pats. Yeah, these little flower things, they'll respawn.
Target something first.
They will respawn no matter what you do. Not sure what's going on here. We need to pull that last one over there. She's probably trying to make sure we get all 5 of the arcane splinters. Although I think we've got enough. We've only got 3, or we've only got 2, so we're gonna need one more. We'll see. We'll see if we actually get him. She's going for that. I see you. I see what you're doing. But let's go ahead and just get him over here. Let's just go ahead and get him over here. Let's not make this any more difficult than it is. Let's just get him over here and get him down and get him done with. Sometimes it's not worth finessing. Sometimes you just gotta do it.
I don't have a target. I require a target. I need to target something first.
Yeah, those guys aren't going to stop coming. So, if we're going to pull pull the big guys, then let's pull the big guys. Get everybody to stand in the healing goodness. There's really, I mean, there are some dangerous paths between here and there, but there's really not that many. Not that many. Easy mode this morning. Nexus also gives a good amount. There's a good amount of mobs in here. There's good. I think there's 4 quests in here, so it's worth doing the quests. So yeah, it's good to do the quests. The mobs provide good XP. You almost always get this when you first get to Lich. It seems like Nexus is always the first dungeon you get. It's the one in the starter zone, so it makes sense. Makes sense. See if I can help out here on DPS a little bit.
I require a target.
Doesn't look like DPS is spiking too bad. Always watch the tab targeting. There's a lot of little dungeons or little things in here that can add up if you get into too much of it. Always a little bit much here and there, but you know, even if you've done this, like I said, I've done this dungeon I don't know how many times. It's always a little bit different because especially if you're doing LFG looking for group, it always turns out to be just a little bit harder, or there's always some different thing that ends up happening. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do that twice. But there's always something that ends up tripping you up, ends up doing something that makes it difficult, makes it more challenging. Occasionally you get groups that, you know, you just MDI it and you just run it super quick, but those are the exceptions. They're definitely not the rule. Those are the exceptions. They are definitely not the rule.
I don't have a target.
Alright, let's see what goes here. This guy's actually pretty easy if everybody follows the plan. He's pretty easy. There's one of those oh crap moments. All right, easy. Easy. Drop down. No pat. No pat. We're good to go. There's not even a guy here. Usually there's a pat. Ah, we're gonna avoid both of them. This is different. Usually there's, oh, they're there. I was about to say, usually there's at least one guardian. If everybody knows this fight, this will go real smooth. If not, it could be challenging. But I'll save all my cooldowns for this one, just in case. my elementals on he's available,
I
so
require a target.
I don't think people realize you gotta hit the orbs. Oh. Yeah, so you have to jump in here occasionally. Although this dungeon's nowhere near as hard as it was back when it was, you know, when we were in that expansion. And you keep seeing these ticks of intense cold, and then you get rooted. So you had to keep jumping to clear the stacks. Or move. Do something. And of course I'm watching the tank's health. And she's not moving, so she's got multiple stacks on her. And she doesn't realize why. All I gotta do is move. Those things will drop off. Yeah, she had 9 stacks on her. Oh, there you go. Picked up a... I'm sure I've got that transmog. Yeah. So it's easy. So there's 73. 4 levels. 4 levels. And we haven't even turned in the quest yet. So... we got an epic upgrade.
Hey there.
Oh boy. Oh, can I get these? I don't care. Just don't die. I'm slowed. I just need to get my...
See you later.
Okay, we've got all my quests done.
I'm out of range.
So, 73.